everyone. Welcome to Association Rockstars, where we hear about the journey and insights of amazing association executives and partners who are building the association industry of tomorrow. My name is Lowell Aplebaum. I'm the CEO, Strategy Catalyst at Vista Cova. We partner with nonprofits and associations and organizations on facilitating strategic planning, visioning, and great governance. It is my pleasure today to welcome Brian Haney. I'm going to try to read all the letters after the name. Here we go. CLTC, CFBS, CFS, CIS, LACP, and I will say most importantly, CAE, but that's just my opinion. Brian is the founder of the Haney Company, along with his father back in 2013. He has been advising clients on how to achieve financial freedom. He attended Indiana University, and as we were just discussing shortly before the start, he is the world's title holder of the most embarrassing dad, something I look forward to competing with in the future. Brian, we're so happy to have you with us today.
I've been looking forward to this for a while, so thank you.
I especially like your self-proclaimed title of financial whiz. It's making me think about how I'm going to claim my own titles. It may actually preempt some of our initial discussion, but we'll see. We always like to start by asking our rock stars who are superlative in so many ways, as you reflect upon your own journey to this point and how you've grown as a leader. What is one place that you shine? What is a superpower you have in this world?
So I thought about this a lot because, I'd like to say, I think we do a lot of things, but the thing that stands out the most and what I try to hang my hat on is, I think, empathy. From how we approach what we do as financial professionals and financial consultants, so much about what we do and what I call our functional capacity, right? Delivering insurance solutions, benefits, whatever it is. It's not really about that. It's about the people. And so I think that I've always really tried to make sure I need to really understand where people are coming from, what is their framework, what's their experience, what do they expect, what do they like, what do they don't like. And I've always tried to make that really my professional mission. I know, thankfully, as demonstrated by all those wonderful letters, I know enough about how to deliver what the ultimate, executable is, but I will feel like I have failed or haven't done my professional job if I don't have a clear understanding and if I'm not connecting well. And so, I think that that's the approach we collectively take as a practice. That's what I've watched my father do for, my whole life. So I think, we really do try to make sure that we like to say we're not just, for associations, we're of associations, and we like to sit with our partners and collaborate and understand and connect. So empathy.
I too shine in the field of empathy. It's something I love, I'm passionate about.
Yep.
One place I always try to reflect upon, to be interested in your thought. Do you find that your superpower of empathy is something you were born with, something that, clearly it's something you saw in your father, you just said, but something that was nurtured, something that you continue to learn? Like how has it grown?
I think, when I think about both of my parents have it in different ways, and I think have definitely demonstrated that over the years. So I was fortunate that I think there was enough of an atmosphere growing up that was something that was easier to bring out or build in my personality, right? Nature, nurture, I don't know how much the mix was. I can absolutely say, though, from a professional standpoint, that I have had to recognize that it is a skill. So regardless of whether or not you feel you come to the table with more in the tank than others do, anybody can learn it.
Yeah.
And I have tried my very best to be a perpetual student as a professional and to, learn, study. I love behavioral economics. I love psychology, which was one of my two minors in college. I feel like I get as much juice out of that as I do out of my major. And I really want to, I'm just fascinated, frankly, by people's stories and how people think. So, I think that those two passions lend themselves pretty effectively to empathy and understanding. But it's something that I always know I got to constantly sharpen the saw.
As you look to continue to grow and to learn, clearly what you're expressing is this love of learning. Where do you learn today? Where do you go to learn today? Like, how do you continue to improve and grow?
We start in our wonderful industry. I have to start in the association community. I mean, geez, I learned so much from people like you and people in our sphere, going to, when we used to be able to go to in-person events and all that.
Soon again, hopefully.
We will. Yeah, no, I know. And I've enjoyed also the virtual shift and all that. I can appreciate, even though this has been a very challenging time, I can also, I'm kind of a silver linings person anyway, so I'm annoyingly wired to always see the glass half full. And I've appreciated just, what has transpired and found value and all of that. But yeah, I mean, we are members of many professional industry, financial industry associations. And so I want to plug one of the ones that I near and dear to my heart, NAFA, National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. I learn almost every week in all of the ways that I'm connected there, and many others like that. I'm very fortunate, because of those types of industry relationships, to have a lot of great peers and people that are just way better at doing what I do. So I get to learn from them. And I try to read as much as I can as well. So, I mean, it's something that you just have to constantly, I think, tend to and make margin for. And so I've tried to, I think the pandemic definitely allowed me to do a better job of making sufficient space for that. Because I think there are times and seasons professionally where that has ebbed and flowed a little bit, but I've really tried to make sure that I have a consistent now framework for, reading and growing and learning and all of that. So it's been really good.
I want to come back to the association comment in a moment, but I have to ask, as you just mentioned, good read you just came through lately? What thing you've read?
Geez. Here, I mean, I literally have one sitting right here. So see if I can get that to show up. See that briefly. Socialnomics by a gentleman that some people might have seen, Eric Qualman, who's a fantastic speaker. And he, talks about socialnomics, talks about kind of digital leadership. He's written a bunch of fantastic books. I was very fortunate to have had him, like yourself, as a guest on my podcast. He's headquartered out of Austin, but he's spoken at a lot of industry events, and I'm sure some people within ASE will probably have recognized his name. So highly recommend it. And frankly, any of the books that he's written. He just wrote another one that's over yonder on my bookshelf, the Focus Project, I think. He's just got a bunch of great stuff. So yeah, if any of that kind of stuff sounds remotely interesting, especially the term socialnomics, absolutely, please go get it, read it. It's fantastic.
We always like to get learning resources and recommendations from our rock stars, so we all can learn alongside. You mentioned a number of organizations you're involved in, and the mystery of joiners is something that organizations are striving for today. Something that, like, how did you become a joiner of associations? Like, clearly you're involved in more than one. Like, what led you to that place?
So this, I'm going to try to, this is a long answer. I'm going to try to condense it.
Okay.
I want to say, first of all, you kind of touched on it. So I feel like my connection to the association industry, it's a bit of a legacy one, because my father has been in this market in his capacity forever. So as long as I've been around. And so I didn't necessarily really understand a whole lot about what he was doing. My dad never, either my brother or I, he didn't raise us to kind of step into his shoes. But he did, we tagged along to some events here and there. We certainly, I remember seeing a lot of the association friends in the social circles that, came over to our house for parties, whatever it was. And also, stuffing envelopes and stuff on summer times, working at his office. So I kind of had this connection without really putting it all together. So fast forward to then stepping into the professional arena. I was also very fortunate that one of my mentors and sales managers very early on, as I was developing a independent financial practice, said, look, if you want to be successful, a leader, and stay in the industry for the long term. If this is a career, not just a place you're dipping your toe in, then you have to join NAFA. And you said, you have to join many, but NAFA was the first one he recommended. And I said, okay. I mean, I bought it because again, those three things were all true for me.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't building a something that was going to be, I'm going to do this for 5 years and go do something else. You know, this is what I wanted to do for, at least the last, 17 years. So, I did that, and one, begets another, because there's several that, we participate in. So the reason to join really lined up, though. It was beyond just, I can't even say it was necessarily something that either NAFA or some of the other industries did for me. It was first, it connected to my value system, and it connected to my professional identity really effectively.
Yeah.
And that's continued to be true and reinforced over the years. So, I think that's, I'm sure that's not always necessarily a why for people, and when they make a membership selection, but I, it was very powerful for me. And, the experiences that I've had have just been fantastic. And that's, I think, at the end of the day, what associations do extraordinarily well is they create great experiences for relationships, and for people who are serious about their passions.
Well, from from our own conversations, and also from how you share your involvement, it's clear you don't shy away from leadership. You don't seem to be a quiet wallflower. How do you decide for any organization, like, where you want to get involved, where you want to volunteer, like what draws you to those places, to that? Because that's a different level. There's belonging, right? But like actual leadership is a much bigger commitment. How do you decide where?
So I think it's two sides of the same coin, and I'll describe them both. I think the first one is the personal drive side, where we were just raised in a house where we had a sense of giving back, and we also had a sense of responsibility for one's community, for one's kind of sphere of influence, right? That was how we were all raised. So there's always been a part of me that recognizes that if I'm able to, whether it's volunteer, whether it's philanthropic, or frankly, in any, professional capacity, give back or connect or, pay it forward, then I was interested in that naturally. So I looked for that, and I tried to, take the Stephen Covey, win-win, look for win-win approach to pursue that. The other side, though, is one that I like to call, I try to follow the favor, meaning I can't say that I ever really had an overly thoughtful pathway towards volunteer leadership, or especially in roles like, board chairs, presidencies, that kind of thing, which I've had quite a bit of that. I've been very fortunate about that, but that wasn't overly intentional. It was really just, I recognize, hey, if somebody's kind of inviting me to this, or it seems like, people are opening doors, then what I need to do is I need to lean in as much as I can to all of that, and take it as far as that will go, because I don't want to shy away from that, or I don't want to undervalue things that, seem to be kind of naturally progressing. So I've tried to use a little bit of both. I think that the thing that I always try to be mindful of, and this would be, what I would suggest, especially for, a younger professional, or as anybody's trying to navigate volunteer leadership, I've always tried to be really good about not overextending and overcommitting, because if I say yes to anything, you can bet I will do it knowing that I can fulfill the commitment, and I will say no if I can't. And I think that that's so important. And I think that's probably helped, fit the right things into the schedule, just having that mentality.
A little bit of a different question, but I know we're both caring, passionate, funny to each other, probably not to our children, fathers.
Yeah,
and
a little bit.
You've spoken a few times about the example you saw growing up, right? Like the family legacy. And I'm just curious, in terms of your own children, like how do you feel like you're trying to pass that on in any intentional way?
Yeah, it's always amazing to watch my daughter every single day just be herself, because I think my wife and I look at each other all the time. We're like, we're still pretty sure she's ours. I'm definitely sure she's my wife's. Whether she's mine, it's still up in the air. But she's just she is a wonderful, we call her a love bug. She loves people.
Yeah.
She's got such an amazing affection for life. She's also grown to be very kind and caring. I mean, many years ahead of her age. And I think, what we've just tried to really be intentional about is encouraging her to be who she is and be confident. She doesn't need to receive validation or praise, or she doesn't need other people to say X, Y, and Z in order to believe it. I think we've really tried to emphasize, stepping into who you are.
Yeah.
But I'm also I'm proud of this, and in that we've also tried to show her who we are. So we were very intentional about making sure that she visibly saw and physically participated in as many things as we could in areas of passion. For example, my wife is amazing about this. One of poverty, national poverty, I think poverty is a national crisis, frankly, an international crisis.
Right.
But we've been very diligent about trying to connect in our local communities, and from I guess 6, 7, 8. I might be getting the ages wrong, but there's we live in downtown Silver Spring, so literally around the block from where we live is a major shelter in that area. And my wife would bring our daughter with her to do volunteer activities, because it's one thing for us, like, to donate money and all that kind of stuff, but it's about relationships. At the end of the day, I think that's the biggest thing that moves the needle. And so from anything that I've been trying to do professionally, we've just tried to let her see these things and see the activity and the action and encourage it within her. And I think that that's probably helped make that a more formative dynamic. And
Yeah.
so, it's lasting. And because I think she's seen enough of that, she now has her own passions, and she's and they're really well formed. She loves animals. She's very passionate about that. She started her own business of pet care, kind of out of that, which that's a whole other story for a whole other day. But so that's been pretty cool. But I guess, I don't know where I am on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of parenting, but the intentionality of at least showing our daughter that this is who we are in practice, not just in what we say, that really mattered.
So we're almost out of time. We ask one other quick question, then I'll ask the last question. So taking that role model example that you're talking about in terms of how you're hopefully passing on the legacy that you inherited, any reflections you have about taking that to the professional sense and those that are aspiring rock stars, about seeking role models or being a role model, anything that they should try to emulate or aspire to?
My encouragement would be to do both, to both seek out, whether it's in a peer category, whether it's in a broader association community, find someone that you'd be surprised. There are many people willing to serve as either a formal mentor or an informal mentor. But, even if you can't find it and formalize it, lean into and get to know people that are in positions where, if you gravitate to somebody you really appreciate their leadership style, just form a relationship and get around people. I mean, that's a lot of where I learned, and it wasn't necessarily all through formal. I just spent as much time with people that I thought really highly of and soaked in as much as I could from them, and then pass it on. There's always somebody coming behind us. So lock arms with as many people as you can that are your peer categories or a little bit behind you, and just be open enough to share as much as you've been able to take, try to pass that around, because I think, again, that's the beauty of the association community. I think that is woven into the makeup of most of the people that I've met in some way, shape, or form. So just be confident that you can give and receive at the same time.
I love that as a thought and a place to focus energy. We have these conversations with rock stars at a moment in their career and in their life, as you think about the long term and the legacy you want to leave behind in the space, so any final thoughts on what you want that legacy to be?
I just, I'm going to bring it back to my industry, because I think that that's where I'm really channeling as much as my energy as I can. It's an industry that is in a pivotal time, frankly, like a lot of America, right? And my hope is that whatever my blood, sweat, and tears can be, whether it's through volunteering, whether I do it professionally directly with consumers or with peers or whatever it is, I want the industry to get better. I think that there's a clear need for more help financially across the landscape of America. So we need more professionals doing that. And so, I want to see by the end of, when they have to wheel me out on my, wheelchair as an old man with a cane saying, I remember when we were doing things on Zoom, and I don't know what that's all about, but I want to see an industry that has changed, and hopefully I'll have had a tiny imprint on it.
Well, I'll look forward to the meme of you being wheeled out saying that.
Oh, it'll happen, I'm sure. Yeah, they'll hush down there, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us today. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and to have you share with the community the legacy of your family and the own one you're leaving behind with all the ways that you're giving. Thanks so much, Brian.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Lowell. It's always good to talk to you.
And thank you, of course, to Amy Hager, who's making sure that the lively conversation and dialogue is happening there as we're having the conversation here, as well as everyone tuning in. As always, Association Rockstars is by, with, for the community. So if you know a rockstar that should be on here, please make sure to submit it through the Rockstar page. And we hope you'll join us next time. Until then, Association Rock On.